Right. Yeah.
One of these suckers.
There you go.
Hey, that's for me.
I guess.
Didn't know I got to sit up front.
You say whatever you want.
I like sitting by
This
you.
was your idea, right? Duffy.
This is a team effort.
Yeah. This really was Mark's idea.
Hey, everybody say hi to Brandon Gardner. Brandon and his mom, Rhonda. There he is.
Who invited Trent? We'll let that guy in there.
Rhonda worked for Coldwell Banker for years, and they are now the only KW agents in Park Rapids.
Nice.
And they own the town. So if you have anybody looking up north, the Gardners are your peeps.
You guy.
Was he your cabin guy up there that you talked about? Okay.
Yeah, Brandon is my boots on the ground for anything I can find up there. The problem is everybody's coming 100K over asking if it's on Lakeshore.
Right.
Well, the asking prices are wrong.
I have that debate with Brandon. Brandon, are the listing prices wrong or are people just insane?
People are insane.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
Paige and Ben, can we see your smiling faces?
As long as you're wearing clothes.
All right. All right. Looking good. Are we ready to get started? We ready, Melissa? Okay. All right. Welcome, everybody, to the Mastermind, Millionaire Real Estate Investor. We've done the workshop, which kind of gets people interested in investing in the book. We've book clubbed this.
What book is that, Dave?
This is the Millionaire Real Estate Investor book.
The blue book.
The blue book.
Blue book.
Yep. If you're not familiar with the book, I suggest you get the book and read it. If you're at all a student of the red book, MREA, you'll find the structure, the skeleton, the mindset is all virtually the same in both cases. So it's pretty easy reading. It'll really get you thinking, how can I not get into real estate investing? I mean, I just have to, right? So today we wanted to mastermind around a topic, and the topic is short-term rentals. I don't know if we've got any experts in the room at all or not, but we want to have good conversation. What we'll do is we'll do a quick introduction, kind of everybody, just if you would kind of, here's where I'm at on the journey. Am I an agent? Am I an investor? Have I done this before? Where am I a week into my education and training, or am I writing on properties, or what am I doing? And then we'll kind of flesh out what are a couple key questions we want to be able to grow our expertise on, and then we'll start writing down ideas and talking, and we'll see where it goes. So with that in mind, I'm Dave Finnegan. I'm a KW commercial guy. I'm a commercial broker, work with primarily investors, teach the blue book in the market center. We talk about wealth building through real estate. I've got one short-term rental property. Where am I really? I've got one short-term rental property. It's managed third party, and I'm working hard to figure out how to self-manage that. And then also buy additional property. My next target is Cable, Wisconsin, Cable or Hayward, right in that area. So my focus is going to be on places I want to go visit. So that's kind of how I'm picking my market, is where do I want to go visit that already has a short-term rental mindset baked into the community. So that's me. Trent, you want to go?
I'm Trent Zimmer. I am just an agent with a small team. We closed on our first investment property, which is a mixed use. We were supposed to close 2 weeks ago. We closed at the end of the month. It's got 6 apartments upstairs and a salon on the main level, and it's on an old main street, so it's kind of cool. I was not looking for it. It fell into my lap. We're also actively writing on short-term rentals, but we do not have any. And it's something that I really, really want to build. That's like what my focus of investing is going to be on, because I have a hospitality background. So it kind of makes me feel like I own hotels. And so this is something I really, really want to run with. And what inspired Dave and I to do this was all of a sudden Mark Duffy would come down and start talking to us about short-term rentals. And I'm not kidding you guys. I had 3 clients in the same day call me and ask to be set up on searches for short-term rentals. And that day I put $1,000 into Airbnb stock, and I haven't really looked at it much since. But I believe that it's kind of the way of the future. We're now hearing terms thrown around like MTR, which is midterm rental. So even if the short-term rental game changes, I think you're going to see a lot of younger people who are not going to necessarily plant roots and stay put. They're going to go work in LA for 6 months, and they're going to go to Albuquerque, and then they're going to go to, I think that's the way we're going to go, because you can work remotely simply. And I mean, I have a friend who spent 2 months in Mexico during COVID and did his normal job. And he was in a penthouse on the beach, and it was like $30 a night. And he's like, this is amazing. He will probably never own a house again.
Yeah.
Or if he does, it'll be short-term rentals, right? And so I think there's just so much cool stuff you can do with them. And now my inspiration too is if I can plant a short-term rental in all these different places, people on my team, people in my database, I can offer them up for trips. I feel like there's just so many things you can do with them. So that's why I love the idea. So that's why I'm here.
Yeah. Why don't we go next to Mark? The reason we're here today is because Mark said, hey, we should. Well, we're doing it. We're having the mastermind. So
The power.
Mark Duffy.
Yeah, the power he has. Dave and I were at Egan together, and I'm a realtor. We have my wife and my daughter on my team. And I was in Dave's class back in Egan, and I was on the fence about buying traditional rentals. Well, now I own 3, and I can't not keep them rented. I haven't even advertised the last 2 openings I've had, and people call me saying, hey, I hear you got a rental available.
Nice.
So that got me thinking, hey, I got 2 kids in college. I want to try to work a cabin into our future. And I thought, why not do a short-term rental? So I actually have a couple targeted. I'll just wait to get the financial side thing going. And I want to jump into the short-term rental as long as my traditional rentals. Matter of fact, the last time one of my rentals opened up, I was going to do a short-term rental there until I got a call that I
Right topics.
Yeah.
kind of helping out a lady, more like I was gonna turn that into a short-term rental in town, but now I'm gonna go ahead and lease it out again, so.
When you say financials, do you mean crunching the numbers, or do you mean figuring out how you're going to finance it, like mortgage it?
See, all the above.
I just wrote down financing.
I'm just waiting to get my taxes back this year, because
Your return.
my return. So I can file it with my mortgage people, because of course, mortgage people hate self-employed people.
Is that true, Tom?
No, we don't hate anybody.
Well, you just have to jump through the ringer with it, and I'm fine with that. I don't have a problem with that. So.
Well, I'm glad we have Tom here, because
Yeah.
Tom is also an investor in a pretty big way. I'll let you share your story, however you want to say it, but he's creative with financing.
So Tom Battini with New American Funding. I am an investor in some multifamily buildings. And I know nothing about short-term rental, and so this is I'm excited to hear more about that. We have we have products that are available for investment properties, and I can get into any kind of detail that you guys want to hear about investment properties and how that's involved, and especially with self-employed people. So I'm just here to learn a little bit and hopefully help you guys with any questions that you might have.
Cool.
Is there anything else we want to talk about?
Topics?
Yeah. People, what are we all here for?
Yeah.
What should we do? Is there any, targeting?
I think we need to keep this very elementary today.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of new people. I mean, I know a lot about the topic, but I don't own any.
Yeah.
So I'm not an expert.
Yeah.
So
I'm not sure we have any experts.
And there's kind of two different, there's people buying stuff in the city, for, people traveling in the sporting events and stuff. And then there's people buying vacation stuff. So it's pretty wide.
defining your criteria is maybe
Yeah.
something important. Yeah.
Imagine owning property near like the Blaine Soccer Complex.
Yeah.
Right.
People are coming in from all over the country for soccer tournaments.
Yeah.
And I know they're snow covered in the winter. In summer though, you probably could rent the heck out of them,
Yeah.
families renting a house for the week while their kids are in the soccer tournament. And they're a mile from the tournament. They're cooking out on the grill at night.
Even
hanging out in the
multiple
backyard.
families. We
Sure,
do it
yep,
when we
yep.
travel for sporting events.
Hey guys, gonna talk to you from the screen here. Paige at the Holtz Group. I'm a buying agent on our team. And I'm hoping to discuss, it sounds like some of us have the rental opportunity. Some of us are looking for the rental opportunity. Would love to know more too. I believe one of the people in person mentioned that they have a third party that's managing the a short-term rental at this point, but would like to make that transition. Would love to kind of talk through the dynamics of that, when to pull in the third party, when to step away from it, and kind of do a cost analysis on that. I've done some independent research on it, but I'd be curious what the people in this group have to say about their experience in having that,
Yeah.
and the decision to ultimately step away from it.
Like a lot of things, the conversation is going to be about time and money.
Mhm.
Am I gonna goose my return, or am I gonna spend time with my kids? Back and forth, right? So
Why don't you just go right into your Lutzen property?
sure. So I own a property, a townhouse, 3-bedroom, sleeps 8 townhouse on the ski slopes in Lutzen, up on the North Shore of Minnesota. It's allegedly the biggest ski operation in the Midwest. So it's probably the biggest in the country outside of like Vermont or the Rockies. So anyway, I've owned it for quite a while and bought it as a pseudo investment, but really to anchor down memories with the kids in a place we wanted to visit 12 months a year. And as time has gone on, I've become more focused on, okay, let me make it work as an investment for me, and let me leverage that equity into other rental properties. So step one, currently I'm under Resort Property Management. They handle all the leasing, they handle the cleaning, the repairs and everything for me. They charge a significant fee. I've become acquainted with other folks who bought in more recently and have decided to self-rent or hire an outside management company. So there's sort of a hybrid structure where I could do the marketing and leasing, they could do the cleaning and maintenance and the keying and all that stuff. So I'm in the middle of doing my homework right now to figure out, okay, what does this really look like? And do I really want to manage a property that's 4.5 hours away?
Sure.
That's kind of the biggest question, right? It is a place I love to go to, so I'm happy to have it as I'm going up there Monday. It's not rented. Typically, what doesn't rent, Monday through Thursday during the school year. Very family-oriented place, so it's built around kids' schedules. I know Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday it's open. I'm going up there to work. I'll bring my cross-country skis. I'll work until 3 p.m. and go on a ski every day. And my clients and everybody else, other than Jeff and Mark and Lisa, they won't know that I'm even gone. And so that's kind of the lifestyle I'm trying to maintain. And at the same time, how do I make more money off of it so that that money can go do other things at other rental properties at another location I want to go visit.
So from your experience, what are you seeing for splits, and what's a typical split for that type of rental?
The splits up on the shore tend to be, I'm paying 50% right now. And it's really a la carte, or not a la carte, it's really full service. They're doing everything.
50% of your gross rent
Yes.
is going
Yeah.
to the
Yeah.
house.
And that's
Blueprint
pretty,
60.
that's pretty standard up in that area. What makes that area fairly unique compared to, say, a Naples, Fort Myers, or Phoenix, or places like that, is that the rental periods are so seasonal and so short, and so they have to, occupancy goes from 100% to 0 pretty quickly.
It doesn't book in the summers and falls.
It does. It goes absolutely dark the second the ski hill shuts down, even a couple weeks before, because once the weather starts getting spotty, then people are less likely to book and
Yep.
take that chance. And then until end of June.
Yep.
It'll book for the bike race, and then the rest of the summer it'll book into end of September. And then October, November until December 15th will be absolutely dark. It'll be something on Thanksgiving. The last 2 years though, and this is one of my topics I'd throw out there, the last 2 years, the rentals have been crazy compared to, we've had two things happen. One, the pandemic, obviously. Two, change in ownership and management up there. And I struggling to figure out which one is having the most impact on my increase in rentals. It's been significant. So I'm doing a lot of homework and analysis, trying to get my head around, okay, what does this really look like?
This is a common way of structuring it in a lot of these resort areas. So I go in and buy a townhome in Lutzen. I get to choose to opt in, or I can choose to opt out. If I opt in, I get access to everything. I'm on their website, they book for me, they clean it for me. I get to use the pools, the fitness centers, all of those things, correct? If I opt out, what am I losing access to? Anything on site? Or do I still get access to all the same things?
There's a little bit of a tussle that hasn't quite been established. There's a little bit of a tussle right now because the associations have rewritten their bylaws, and the management company is starting to strong arm the people who opt out into not using resort amenities. So that doesn't mean the pool, and it doesn't mean the trails and things like that, but it does mean some.
It's probably more services.
It's exactly services.
Yeah,
Services that
that's-
are not being paid, services that used to get paid for through the rent, right? So we're trying to figure out, how do we do a hybrid model where we can provide access to everybody and everybody pays for it, so.
And you're still free to list that on VRBO or Airbnb if you opted out.
As a solo practitioner, our bylaws are written, the association bylaws, ownership bylaws are written so that you have to be a broker to do it. Just to self-manage, or you hire a broker, right? So all they're really trying to do is enforce a level of professionalism to the operation.
Can you request their services a la carte? Like just like you want just, so you rent it out, but you want them to do the turns for you?
No, that may be the long-term solution. I don't know. At this point, though, they're, the management companies holding a firm line on in or out.
'Cause I think one of the things.
Because they're trying to make it uncomfortable for people, which is
Yeah,
fair.
They want you to opt in.
Right.
But one of the things I remember you telling me is that, so if I tried to stay in your place and you weren't opted in, I can't check in at their front desk. I have to use your check-in services.
Yep.
So
Which is-
imagine the headache that creates with Lutzen's front desk, the amount of people who don't know that they can't
Right.
use the front desk, and they go, sorry, you can't check in here. And then they reach out to Dave.
Yep.
So Dave has chosen time instead of money. So that's why he's chosen to leverage it out. I know there's
I'm looking into it hard. Ultimately, I'd love to have a restructure of the management agreement so that it made financial sense for me to stay in. I'd love to stay in,
Yeah.
because then I could have a little bit of both worlds, so.
It's getting easier and easier, I think, for people to self-manage because everything's on here on our phones. You can literally open the door for somebody from your phone if you had the correct keypad on there. So one company that I'm aware of, if you guys want to write this down, this is not a sponsored ad. Evolve Management. I was turned on to Evolve by actually
Page.
Brandon Gartner, who's on this call right now. His partner or old partner Kelly up in Park Rapids uses them for just one or two. Brandon, does she have two properties?
Oh, she's got the one.
And she was like ranting and raving about it. And so when I called Evolve, I asked a ton of questions, and with Kelly's approval, they sent me all of her numbers, her booking, her vacancy, her everything. They sent me everything. And that was really amazing to see all that. So the cool thing about them is they photograph it in all seasons, and it's good photography. I would say up to par with what we would use on our listings as agents.
Mhm.
They photograph it in all seasons, so you have pictures to match when people are booking. If you were to look at it on Airbnb, it doesn't say contact Mark. It says contact Evolve. So your name is not attached to it. It looks like it's a service, not a person, which I personally like. especially like we're all business people. What I don't need is them to find out who I am, go to my Zold real estate page and say, this guy's vacation rental sucks. And he's a
Yeah.
horrible person. So there's good leverage out there. I don't know any other ones. If anyone else knows of other companies similar to Evolve, throw it out.
We just stay, we stay in a couple a year when we travel. We just stayed in an Evolve one,
Mhm.
and that was phenomenal.
Yeah, it was awesome.
The one you sent me?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the one down there.
So if you guys couldn't hear that, he recently stayed in an Evolve one and it was excellent.
Yeah.
Great experience.
So what's it, what do they charge
They're
then?
10% of gross.
That's great.
Yep. 10%
So do
of
they
gross.
They don't hire the cleaner for you.
They don't
No,
hire a
and-
cleaner?
They don't hire. So here's the thing.
They don't hire the HVAC.
Write this down. Through all my research, there's been one constant, and it's the VIP is your cleaner.
Yep.
Your
That makes
cleaner is
sense.
the most important person you can find.
A reliable cleaner that gets there on time, gets out on time, does a really good job, leaves the welcome basket on the counter in the right spot with the welcome card, and does all that kind of concierge kind of stuff, and then locks on the way out. That's invaluable. And I know in the market that I'm in, and it's probably true of every market these days, good help is hard to find. You know,
Especially.
that's the biggest struggle up in Cook County is finding a cleaner.
You gotta poach them from the resort.
I imagine if there's one good one, then everybody wants to use him or her.
Right.
And they need to do the same work on the same day because the turns are at the same time, right?
And they're also probably driving a grooming machine at night.
Yeah.
Or running chairlifts on the weekend or doing kayak rentals on the weekend at Grand Marais, you know, they're working multiple jobs and yeah.
For their visas running out.
Or, yeah. Anybody want to raise their hand with anything else they want to throw in about management, self-management?
So once you get your cleaner, Evolve works together with your cleaner. You are not the one who coordinates that, but you are in charge of finance. Sorry, I didn't mean to stop you early.
Yeah, that's okay. I was just curious, have you had experience with a bad tenant? And how's that kind of worked in terms of like, because I've heard in the past, sometimes they like to, stay past their checkout time and stuff like that. I've just heard things on YouTube about that. I'm curious if you had experience with that or if you did or.
He's fully leveraged, so he doesn't deal with anything
Yeah.
probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I've experienced is damage to the unit.
Yep.
From a renter that the cleaner doesn't catch
Yep.
and, oh, you rolled in person. Hi. That the manager who did the walkthrough after cleaning didn't catch. And I go up to use my unit a couple weeks later and I find, the screen that's broken or whatever. But not directly, not personally with, I'm sure we can find somebody that's got stories of bad renters. I'm sure there's more than enough, more than enough.
But can't you somewhat manage that? I know like Airbnb and VRBO, I mean, both sides rate both sides, right? The renter rates
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
buyer rates.
Yeah, for
And you
sure.
could probably minimize that a little bit by saying, I only want 4-star and above renters,
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
because I have a client that I've talked to about, they have a VRBO. And I just helped them buy a duplex and they're gonna continue this. Matter of fact, her husband quit and they're just gonna do this continually. So but as far as.
And they're doing
that,
the duplexes short term?
Short term.
Okay.
And they are, I asked them about that. Well, they stay downstairs while they rent out the upstairs. So they're physically there. But they said they've been doing it for 2 years. They've had one bad.
You're always
experience.
gonna have.
But they said that was it. So by and large, they haven't had, because of that star rating, that nobody wants to lose their rating.
Yeah.
On both sides. So they want to be.
Yeah, it's like having a bad score on Uber. You're not getting picked up.
Isn't there some type of insurance that's included in some of the Airbnb or
Yeah.
VRBO?
She said there was.
Damage
Yeah,
insurance?
and damage deposits.
I
and,
think
yeah.
there's some involved in that.
Well, I think there's some insurance that will pay if there's major
Yeah.
damage.
That would be a great topic for an entire class to have somebody who's
Risk management.
Risk management,
to
yeah.
have somebody who's good, because I know there's a lot of people who argue like the LLC thing, does it protect me? And I know that the common misconception is that if it's an LLC, it's protected, because that's not necessarily true. There's a lot of ways around that. But if you do it right, it can protect you. And if you do it right with the right insurance policy, it's even better. So I think you could have a whole conversation probably
That's a good
just
idea.
around how to protect yourself. Because somebody slips on your sidewalk and cracks their head open,
And even like,
what do you do?
have a boat up there to rent or not, or this and that, if you're talking
Yeah.
vacation stuff.
Right, right.
That's a whole, that'd be a great idea.
I know insurance companies do not like rental and HOA, that combination, so that there's a limited pool of people that will actually insure you.
And also,
That's on that.
like due diligence on, county or city codes on, do you run into a lot of things changing where they don't like short-term rentals? Things like
I've
that.
spent a lot of time researching that stuff lately, because my limiting belief was that I'm worried I'm gonna buy a property
No change.
and then all of a sudden I'm gonna owe them an 11% tourism tax or something ridiculous, and I'm gonna have to sell it because the numbers don't work anymore. And then I was listening to an episode of, I think it was Bigger Pockets, and one of the guys on there who specializes in short term, he said, instead of focusing on markets that don't have regulations, you should actually focus on markets that do have regulations. Because the ones that are regulated are not going to get re-regulated. They're not going to change the rules. But it's only a matter of time before most of these places, I mean, unless you buy in.
I think a lot of your big regulations are coming from the associations though. So,
Okay.
so that's where you have to dig in, is just from a lending perspective. I know
Yeah.
that they've, the short-term rentals sometimes mean condo-tel. And if you're classified as condo-tel, then it's that from a lending perspective, that's a big deal. But within the association guidelines, it may or may not, and that could change as well. It may say that you can do short-term rentals, you cannot do short-term rentals, and they limit the amount of short-term rentals that can be as a part of the whole association if it's not an official.
I'm a part of an association that just in December, last summer, we rewrote our bylaws, updated them, addressed those issues, and it passed with flying colors.
And what happens if it doesn't pass though, which is Trent's concern, that you get involved with
Right.
something that you need to figure out how, is it possible that the association can change this midstream on me?
Yeah.
Yeah, don't speculate.
And I'll layer on top of what you said about look for municipalities where the regs are already in place. On top of that is look for areas, municipalities where the culture, the community has already accepted short-term rental as a way of life. You're not going to find changes. They're already totally used to working in that environment. This city has monetized it already, and you just got to plug in and follow the rules. Yeah, that's a good way to minimize that risk.
Hey, Brandon, can I call on you?
Yep, I was just gonna jump in here. So, yes, associations are very important to look at, but especially like in our neck of the woods, we're just kind of a smaller area, but our county is really being strict on septic systems. That's their huge concern, is if you're advertising for 12 people to stay at your place and your septic system can only handle 6, then you're going to get in trouble. So they didn't have regulations, and now they just started to this last December, I think it was. So pay attention to what your county says about septic systems. That's absolutely huge.
That's a good point.
Yeah. Yep.
I just worked in a commercial transaction where a change in use would have created occupancy that exceeded the current system. So the response was, okay, we'll update the system, but you're right, you do run into that.
Brandon, are people putting in new septics?
Yeah. Yep. They are big systems that are, $15,000. So, but you'd get fined if you are advertising for more than what your septic system handles, and either you get fined or you put in a huge septic system that costs you 15 grand. So either way, you want to know what you're walking into. So pay attention to those county guidelines.
Can I call on Carrie, Steve, Jay and Jen to show us your smiling faces.
Gen G's driving. She's in western Wisconsin.
Hi, guys.
What else? I think financing is probably an important piece of this.
Yeah, so as I'm sitting here listening to this, it's just the pro forma in general is kind of scares me because how do you get the historical rental information? Like on a regular long-term rental, it's all there, right? You can do your pro forma easily, but there's so many variables to this. And I think it could be good. I mean, but how do you dial down into your pro forma? So that's
I'm digging
I have an answer for that.
So yeah,
I have two answers for that.
how accurate do you think that is?
Air DNA.
Yeah.
I think it's
Your
very.
DNA, I was just gonna say.
I think it's conservative, actually.
I think it's really, really good.
So Trent, we
Yeah.
stumbled upon it. What is it? Is it on
Remind.
Remind?
Yep.
They have a score on there or a percentage of occupancy and
Yep.
an estimated value. So-
I'm just now drilling into AirDNA and also Mashvisor.
version. The free version is really limited.
Yeah.
So
Air DNA.
yes,
Yeah.
I'm subscribing to both I'm going to subscribe to both Mashvisor and AirDNA.
I got a quote from Air DNA last week to have, I think for the state of Minnesota, it was going to be 1,800 for the year. And for the entire country, it was going to be 4,800 a year. And I don't know what to do because if you're working with people who want to see numbers in Wisconsin, Balsam Lake, Wisconsin, you could run those numbers and help them and then refer them to somebody. So that's why I'm like, do I just pay for the whole thing?
But you can get
Just
the
to
neighborhood for
focus on-
25 bucks a month, I think. Which in Balsam Lake might be the entire zip code.
Yeah, but if every time somebody asks you about a short-term rental, you're just going to buy that market for $25. I'm trying to figure out the tough part about short-term rental for me is that everyone who's ever asked me about it is looking in a different place.
Yeah.
So it's not like the MLS where I just am the master of this. I can run numbers on anything pretty much as long as I know general values. So that's I don't know if anybody has an AirDNA subscription or whatever.
What's
or
your
a
password?
Membership.
Well, I was gonna ask, do you
5,000
have
bucks.
multiple accounts or? Is it kind of like,
You mean like, could you get it and then share it?
is it kind of like Netflix where you can have multiple profiles? Kind of like that?
I doubt
Idea.
Sure not.
I doubt it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably
Too
not.
easy.
So AirDNA is
what
a really
I'm-
good tool.
I'm drilling in on the property I own and know the numbers for already. I'm testing AirDNA and Mashvisor in that same market to see if I'm getting similar results that I can feel like I can trust.
And how is it?
So far, so good. Yeah, so
I
far.
have a
so
question
good.
for you. Yeah.
You can drill on a property, look at a comp, and it'll send you to the Airbnb listing. You know, it's totally connected. It's interesting.
So I walk into the bank, Tom, and I want to buy a vacation home. That's probably going to become a short-term rental for me too. Do I need to tell you if I'm doing one or the other?
No.
Okay, I didn't think so. Did everybody get that?
A year ago, the
It's a
answer would have been yes.
It's a second home, okay, and you can do whatever you want with it as long as there any
Well, on a second home, you have to intend on
spending 14.
occupying it as your secondary property. So you can, it's a bit vague, but right now, Mark and I were just talking about this. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac came out with what's called loan level price adjustments just 2 months ago, which basically treats, other than the down payment, treats investment properties the same as second homes. So there's not as much benefit now it used to be that everybody would go in and call their investment property a second home because the financing terms are pretty much the same as primary residence and lower down payments. It's still the lower down payments. So you can still get it with 10% down, but your interest rates are the same as investment property.
So I could buy a short-term rental with 10% down.
Yes,
Everybody should write that down.
You're gonna take a hit, you'll take a hit on the interest rate.
as long as the numbers make sense,
Yeah.
that could be okay, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so with respect to the rate, I just got an email from a loan officer in another state who specializes in short-term stuff. And he had said that there were some changes coming to rates specific to vacation homes. Do you know anything about that?
He's probably referring to the Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. loan
Probably.
mortgages.
Okay.
So that's that's going across the board. So
Alright.
there are other lenders.
I'll tell you, I did have, so with my client, we financed in an untraditional way because they're all self-employed and hadn't had their place. So they went to an Airbnb type lender that just went off an AirDNA score. It was a disaster.
I was just
So
gonna say,
by
that sounds
far,
risky.
The worst
That's your whole portfolio.
experience.
But they
I've had.
closed.
They did close, but we closed a month late because of them. It almost cost us the deal. It was pretty bad.
I mean, you're not even looking at, when you're crunching this, you're just looking at my finances regular, like a normal finance. Do you really care about how it performs?
So there's two ways of financing a property like this. Either you go with the conventional financing or you're going to go with commercial financing. Conventional financing, there's a lot that goes into it, especially with short terms. I mentioned this condo-tel. That's a big deal. If your association is considered a condo-tel, you are a non-mortgageable condo by Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. And so there are a lot of these kind of people that are buying short-term rentals down in Florida that can't get conventional financing on them. And they're finding out, and after they write on the purchase agreement, because nobody advertises that they're a condo-tel. So you need to do your diligence in advance to make sure that it's not what they would call, if there's a rental desk at all, it's a condo, it's going to be considered a condo-tel. So the answer to your question is, if you're buying something as an investment property, they do look at your finances, and you can use your pro forma, you can use the future rents up against your debt to income ratios. If you're doing it as a commercial loan, then it's more about the performance of the property than it is the performance of you.
Is there a benefit to going one over the other?
Yeah. So the conventional financing is going to allow you longer amortizations. So lower payments, better interest rates, and fixed interest rates throughout the life of the loan. The commercial loan is typically going to be an adjustable rate. And it's going to be for a period of 5 to 7 years, which is going to cause you to refinance every 5 to 7 years. Interest rates are
It's
going.
not adjustable annual though. It's
It's based on an amortization, but it's fixed for a period of 5 or 7 years, sometimes 10 years, depending on which bank you go with. Typically, it's amortized over 25 years, and typically the interest rate's about 0.5% higher than where the conforming rates are. So you're going to be better off going with conventional financing if number one, you can get the association approved, and number two, you yourself can get approved on that
I'd
property.
be curious, once you start to own 5 of these, 10 of these, 20, 100, are those people financing, do you think, exclusively with commercial loans, or do you think they're still financing like a regular purchase?
Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac limit the amount of investment properties to 10 right now. So you can only have 10 financed properties through Fannie and Freddie. Then you have to go
They're
to
probably paying cash.
private, either a commercial loan or private investor.
All right. Does anybody have any
Did we
finance
talk
questions?
interest rates or no?
So the interest rates, if you're buying it as a second home, it used to be that your interest rates were the same as a primary residence, or very close. But now they're probably at 3/8 to 0.5% higher than the conforming loan limits, whether it's an investment or not, that as 3/8 to 1/2 higher than your primary residence, as long as it's an investment property, or whether it's an investment property or a second home now. Down payments, primary residence, or if you buy it as primary residence, or I shouldn't say, if you're buying Short-term rental, you wouldn't be buying it as a primary residence, but if you were, you could go to 97%. If it's a second home, you can go to 90%. If it's truly an investment property and it's a 1 unit, you're gonna be at 85%, but you probably want to go, so 15% down, but you probably want to go with a minimum of 20% down. So second home, 20% down.
And the shorter amortization, I mean, if you're talking about, conventional commercial, that shorter amortization is it's a higher payment, so less cash flow monthly, but it's also more pay down.
Yeah, you're applying more to your
Yeah,
principal.
yeah. So it's
not a bad thing.
no, it's not a bad thing.
Yeah, when you're
You just
crunching-
have to make you have the re-up decision to make at 5 or 7 years when your balloon payments due.
Yeah, one of the things that I always do when I'm playing around with the numbers is look at the different amortization options. Because if it cash flows well at 15 year instead of 30, I'd probably do that because you're just going to own the place free and clear in 15 years rather than 30. And maybe you're not making the cash flow per month, but who really cares?
Yeah.
So run them both. Don't just run the cheapest payment. Run them both and make sure the numbers make sense. Any questions on financing since we're on that topic? Financing a short-term or a vacation rental.
I have a question for Jeff about your experience. So did your clients do a pro forma, or did the bank essentially do the pro forma for them?
They did one, and
Yeah.
then, but everything was based off the air DNA score. That was their big, the big deal there. Like I say, they were just not organized. They couldn't get an appraiser together. They asked for documents over and over again. We thought everything was done with one guy and then he quit, and, it was just.
Where are they based out of?
But they closed.
They did close. They did close. They did close, and it worked. In the end, it probably would have been okay if they would have been organized with their stuff. They did things in kind of reverse order, and
If I remember correctly, if it's the same client that you and I talked about, there was multiple buyers with multiple different credit scores, and it would have been a nightmare to go standard conforming financing, conventional financing.
Also, they went in with,
it was a small group. It's a group of my relatives
oh, yeah, that would have
created
been
an
a nightmare.
LLC, and then all of them
Yeah,
own their own business. So it was,
so Tom politely
Nightmare.
declined.
It was okay.
Cool. Anything else? How we doing?
Tools?
Tools.
Jump into tools?
Yeah, sure. We talked about DNA.
Yeah. So can I just throw out to everybody is where is everybody on sort of the getting educated journey? Are you reading? Are you watching videos, listening to podcasts? How's everybody learning about this stuff?
Who in here knows nothing about short-term rentals? Raise your hand. Okay. Oh, come on, Duffies.
I said,
Well, we have
Happening.
different ideas and spectrums. He handles
Sure.
all the numbers and all that, and Cora and I are like, we believe it needs to look a certain way.
Okay.
And and part of that is when we travel, we do stay in Airbnbs or VRBOs, and how it is put together is important.
Did you pick Arkansas?
No, Mark does all the
I pick
research.
them.
He just shoots them to me. He's like, what do you think? And I'm like,
That place looked
Yeah.
brilliant.
oh, it was amazing.
Well, it was the
And
best
it had the
stock.
best.
It was the best stock VRBO
Yeah.
ever stayed in. And then, is that all owner or is that part of the management deal? Question. Let's say you buy something, and there's a good tools out there to say, do this, 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 and this, or you kind of on your own.
No, there's a bunch of that kind of information. Bunch.
There's some really good Instagram accounts out there. I think his name's Tony Robinson. Does anybody follow Tony Robinson?
You mean Tony Robbins?
Nope. I believe his name's Tony Robinson. I just watched one of his things this morning. He talked about the importance of cleaners, ironically. Let me make sure that's his name.
It's Tony Robbins.
Only Robbins, everyone knows.
Tony J. Robinson. He's a real estate investor and short-term rental expert. I think it's him and his wife run the, so yeah, if you guys go to Instagram and type in Tony J. Robinson, he's got 23,000 followers. he does some really, really good information. Like his most recent video is how to clean like a super house. So
So how long will that video be?
that video is, oh, I just went off of it. It's probably 2 minutes long.
Okay, that's. Another name I would throw out there, both YouTube channel and podcast, is Avery Carl. AVERYCARL. And she's a realtor in, I think, Tennessee. Owns a bunch of doors, Airbnb, self-manage. Really, really knowledgeable and really, really happy to talk about her knowledge. So very cool. She's got a great website, loads of information, lots of education, YouTube, like I said, YouTube, and her podcast is called, I forget. So I don't know if I'll figure it out. I'll send it out to everybody.
So this sounds really pathetic, but I think this is, sorry, whoever was about to talk. Carissa's criteria when we're looking at properties is, can she make it look good on Instagram?
Yeah.
Because people are gonna book because of that.
Sure.
Like there are Airbnb properties that I follow on Instagram because they're picturesque
Mhm.
and they're super cool and chic, and so make sure whatever you do, it looks really good, just like you would for your listings,
Mhm.
right? Don't let it look like a divey old hotel. Put some cool pictures up and some artwork and some lights and
Yeah.
put a place that a bachelorette party might use as a background, and then tag your Airbnb because people will book from there. Whoever was going to talk.
Oh, I was just gonna say Avery Carl's got a book called Short-Term Rental, Long-Term Wealth.
That's how I met her. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
You read it?
I just downloaded it literally yesterday, so.
Are you on Bigger Pockets? Is that how you found her?
Sure is,
Yeah.
sure is, yep.
Another
that's-
great resource for investing, Bigger Pockets. Join that community.
Yeah, the Bigger Pockets community is a podcast. They also do them all on YouTube. Some of them are better on YouTube because they actually provide visuals. But the forums in there are phenomenal. So I get an alert, like when we were looking in Park Rapids, there were certain criteria, things that I wanted to know about. So I put in keywords that alert me when people in those forums talk about that. And it's awesome. So every time someone's talking about the topic that I don't know about, I get an email that says, hey, your keyword just popped up in our forum. So I think the membership for that is what, $400 a year or something?
369.
And they always give out like 20% off things. So if you're not a Bigger Pockets Pro member, you should join, especially if you're in the industry, because it's a business write-off.
Yeah.
They provide tools not only for, actually, probably the one tool they don't have is short-term. I don't think they have a tool for it, which is fine because you can.
An analysis tool?
Yeah, but they do BRRRR tools, rehab tools. Also, they do all sorts of different like tools to crunch numbers.
So
I
Trent,
recommend jumping into the podcast. I don't know if everybody out there is Keller or not. You'll find that there's so much, 3/4 of their podcast is mindset and education and discipline. So you'll feel right at home. You'll feel right at home with those guys.
Go, Brandon.
so Trent, when you're looking at short-term rentals to purchase, how do you run your numbers?
So when I'm looking at our short terms, the first thing I'm doing is looking at the payment and my different financing options. Then I'm going to go to AirDNA or find somebody who has one in the market and see if they'll give me their information. Otherwise, I'll go to Airbnb or VRBO and pretend I'm booking in different times of the year, see what the rates are. Because you can actually see, like if I go to Lutzen next November, I can see if it's booked or not. So you can already get an idea of what occupancy or vacancy is like based on just going to these websites and pretending you're a consumer. Because it'll show you what the rate is. It will show you what days are available.
It'll show you the nightly number on the calendar.
Yep, it'll show you exactly what they're getting. And then calling the management companies. They will tell you guys more than you think they'll tell you because they want your business. Right? It's like when I called Evolve and I said, hey, can you tell me about how Park Rapids is doing. I know the person who owns this one. He was like, well, if she's fine with it, I can just send you her whole thing. I'm like, okay, hold on, let me have her call you. They sent me everything. So I already know what she's getting for a rate on July 4th through the 10th. I know if it's booked. And so that's what I'm doing first, is I'm just doing as much digging in the area to see actually how they're performing. And then once I know that, then I'm going to start plugging it into just different spreadsheets. I think I use a spreadsheet now is what I have. And it's very, very basic.
You
Are
have
you
any-
looking for like a certain ROI?
No, not really. I want something in a market that's appreciating because I don't want to only bank on cash flow. I want to also know that the asset's going to be worth more when I go to sell it at some point.
Sure.
I think that's super important. Cash flow for me, I'm doing this for the long term. Like I'm not in this to get rich next week, right? I want to own one that does really well consistently and then go get another that does the same thing so that in 20 years when I'm ready to sell them, I have a $10 million portfolio. I don't really care how they, I care, but I'm not worried about the cash flow I'm getting right now. It's
And
not,
once- and
it's the least important piece in my opinion.
And once they pay themselves off, then the cash flow gets serious.
Once they pay off, the cash flow gets serious and you can start talking about pulling out cash.
Yeah,
And going to
refinance. Yeah.
And that's the beauty of it.
I start with revenue, and then I estimate some expenses, and then I look at, okay, I look at my net operating income, and then I go, okay, how am I going to finance this? And then I start looking at the financing piece.
And I think the other thing I always think about too, and Brandon, I know you know this from our conversations, because he sends me stuff all the time. And if it's like way out in the sticks, my first thing is like, where would I have to go to find a really good cleaner? Are there towns around where there's resorts? Is there something where I need, if I have somebody or a handyman, I can get them there? Because as much as I'd love to have a place in the middle of Boundary Waters, how the heck am I going to manage that if somebody has a problem?
I think you hit on something that's really important. And I think that most first-time investors that fail, they fail because they're trying to, they look at they want something to cash flow. And they want to make that their new job, to live off that cash flow. And it's really hard to do with investment properties. It's the people that make it a long-term play tend to succeed a lot more than the people that make it a short-term play.
I've put so many deals together that make perfect sense that people pass on because they're, and I'm always about a 10-year model, 10-year pro forma. They sit there and they look at year one and they won't move off year one. They're like, that's my cash flow. Yes, in year one, there's your cash flow year 5, there's your cash flow year 10. There's your cash flow over the life of the thing. There's your debt pay down.
If you can automatically look to year 10, you'd sell a lot more, right? Because it's
Probably,
a
yeah.
no brainer and the
You guys just
numbers are right.
Look at the spreadsheet, go 10, 9.
Yeah.
Especially with appreciation. I mean,
Yeah. So that's the other question that I was going to ask. From a tax perspective on a short term versus long term, can you depreciate it the same way? Is it looked at the same way?
I think it's
I
looked at
believe-
exactly the same. Yeah.
I'm assuming.
I believe so, but and somebody can correct me if they know the answer to this. I think accelerated depreciation is something that you can probably really benefit on the short term more than a standard property. Does everybody know what accelerated bonus depreciation is? No? Okay, so I got really into this because the building we just bought is commercial, and these typically work best for commercial properties. Okay, so what you do is bonus depreciation is a tool that was given to investors by the government to basically, the best way I can explain it is the building itself depreciates on a what, 37,
39 and a half.
39 and a half year. Okay, so they're going to depreciate the building at that. However, all the other things inside of it depreciate on a different schedule. Okay, so they're going to look at the carpet, the lights, the sinks, literally every single thing in there, and they're going to put it on its own schedule. Now, the cool thing is you can actually take basically I think it's the first 5 years and take it in year 1. Okay, so to give you an idea what that looks like, The building we're buying is $588,000. And through a cost segregation study, which is gonna cost me $2,500, okay, so it's kind of expensive. We're probably gonna see a $30,000 tax savings in year one. And then it'll be like 16,000 a year after that, forever.
Sounds like a good investment.
Yes. So I think what you can do with a short-term rental that's maybe a little bit different is, and maybe this is only possible if you finance it commercially, I don't know. But you can have a cost segregation study or take bonus depreciation on it because it's performing as a rental. That's something you'd have to look into. I don't know the answer to that.
I don't think your accountant would care how you finance it, to be honest with you.
I don't think so either.
You don't think so?
No.
So maybe somebody can Google like cost segregation or bonus depreciation on short-term rental and see if that's something that can happen. Because if it is, there's tax benefits there too.
I'll bring a CPA in to talk about it. Yeah, it's cost segs.
That'd be a good idea, yeah.
Yep. And then I know for us, like I mentioned when I first was introducing myself, giving it away is what I also am excited about. And that's, there's gonna be benefits to that too, is giving it away at certain times of the year and giving it to clients. And
Yeah.
so
I just did that.
there's just so many things you can do with them, I feel like.
I just did that 2 weeks ago. The Ronald McDonald House annual auction. The auction took place in, I think, October. I donated my unit plus lift tickets to the auction, and somebody, probably paid $2,000 for it. That money goes to Ronald McDonald House. They used my place 2 weekends ago. And I'll get a write-off as a charitable donation for that fair market value of their use, right? So yeah, I take advantage of that. I've been doing that for years for the Rotary Club and for Ronald McDonald House, stuff like that.
Yeah, I
Can we write that off for our clients if we?
I would think so. I would think so.
I would think.
Absolutely, yeah.
What else I had some other things for tools. Like you talked about spreadsheets. Does everybody know what a pro forma is? Yes, no?
Or if anybody has created a spreadsheet specific to short-term rental and wants to share it in the group, go ahead. It looks like Paige just posted something. I don't know what she said.
Oh, she's got to run.
Thanks for nothing.
Bye, Paige.
Bye, Paige.
I think you could apply to just the standard pro forma for a long-term.
I think so too. I don't think it's much
Yeah,
different.
yeah. But just pay attention to literally every single line item. Think about every one. It may not apply, but make sure it doesn't apply. So one big mistake people will make is they'll miss expenses. They'll underestimate their expenses, which overestimates their cash flow, which gets them really excited. And then they go do deals and they find, oh, I forgot property taxes or something. There's an out of pocket that's costing them money. And then they're trying to scramble to make up for it by charging more rent. And then they're kind of chasing their tail, But a pro forma is going to be a forward-looking projection financial statements for the property. It's all about basically, top to bottom. It's rent comes in. You might factor in some vacancy. You've got expenses for operating, cleaning, landscaping, snow plowing, property taxes, cleaning. I said cleaning already. It gets you to sort of your net operating income. And then from there, you might want to set aside some money for a capital expenditure fund. Got to replace the carpet every once in a while. The roof goes every 20 years, that kind of stuff. And then what's my debt service going to be based on my financing? That result is my cash flow. So that's a pro forma, and that's minus the debt service piece. That's what they're going to look at. They'll layer in the debt service piece, and the banker will.
So what's the, isn't there a day cutoff that, so you can use potential losses, right? If you had a loss, you can only stay there 10 days or less or something on your taxes. I remember working on this with my father-in-law a long time ago. Through Bluefin, and it was.
And it depends on whether you're a real estate professional or not.
Okay.
And you don't have to, that doesn't mean you're the licensed realtor helping people buy and sell homes. It means you're actively involved in your real estate business, which is owning a rental property.
500 hours a year or something like that. I think.
Yeah. And so the rules are, I don't know what the rules are if you're not a professional, because I will really only own since I was a professional, so.
So your accountant will determine whether or not you can classify yourself as a real estate professional or not.
They'll ask you, do you spend, I think it's 500.
You are, by the way.
You spend 500 or more hours.
How many deals I've been sending him this year, he would say I'm not.
So what else? Next steps, maybe?
Yeah, I guess we're right on time.
So we've got a Facebook group. Hopefully everybody's on Facebook. It's in some way, shape or form. We've got a Facebook group called the Insider Investor Club that I'll invite everybody. In order to be an insider, you have to actually participate in one of these sessions, and you guys have. So I'll invite everybody in, and that's a little place where we share ideas, resources. I'll throw out Avery Carl's information to everybody. That's kind of where we'll trade information and ideas, and post wins, post losses. This happened bad. Watch out for whatever lender,
I'll find the
stuff
name
like
of
that.
it.
So it's just a chatter place and a resource sharing place for small time investors like us. So, and then I think we'll be putting a book club together and maybe another mastermind around risk management. And maybe it's next month. I have to talk with the market center and get on the training calendar and see what's going to work. So
who in here has one? No one? I love that. What's stopping you guys? What's step one to getting your first?
just got
Finding it.
Finding it?
Identify property.
Okay, but all right, so if you don't know what it is you're looking for, then you're chasing a rabbit, a squirrel, and a chicken.
Or-
Yeah.
No, it's just finding the one that fits your criteria.
What's your
weird.
criteria?
Oh, perfect. He's got criteria.
What's your criteria?
That sets you apart from 90% of investors.
Well, I've been going back and forth with either finding a condo in the Twin Cities
Okay.
or finding a nice single family home at a lower price. But there's multiple questions, just like if there has to be renovations done, who you go through and stuff, and also how to like furnish it and stuff like that, and also to make it look appealing enough to be like, hey, it's not just to use it for an office. You can also have get-togethers at this place. You can like a multi-use property all in one is kind of what I'm looking for. A lot of flexibility is what I'm kind of looking for. So,
You know how to find them?
well, yeah, the MLS, but like I was also curious if you guys have like off-market deals or anything like that you look at, or kind of curious about that too. So,
Always. Yeah. That's where you should be digging really hard right now. Off market. Yeah. Maybe finding deals is another one of our things.
And I think Minneapolis, I did a little research. I think in Minneapolis, you can only own one short-term rental in the city.
Really?
Is that really?
I don't know if I knew that.
Clamping down on it, because I know with St. Paul, when we looked at this, you can own more than one. But if you own a second, it has to be just single residence. If it's like a duplex, you have to live in one side or try, quad, fourplex, whatever. You can live in one and rent out the other three, but if you don't live in one of those, you can't rent out the whole thing. So
Interesting.
so there, because I'm almost positive, because we switched our searches from Minneapolis to St. Paul. Now, that's information she gave me. I haven't looked that up. I did some city of
Okay.
St. Paul. They do have a short-term rental page, St. Paul does. Gives you, but yeah, there's some restrictions there as well.
Interesting. Did not know that.
follow up on that. I heard around, I can't remember if it's both Minneapolis and St. Paul. I'm pretty sure it's Minneapolis for sure. I heard if you want to do any renovations on it, you have to have a contractor's license in order to do that. Yeah, I don't know if you know anything about that or.
I think that would be the case with anything that you don't live in, correct?
Homeowners can do that.
Homeowners can do their own work,
Control permit.
but it's possible that yes, if it's gonna be a rental property, then yeah, that might be I wouldn't be surprised by that.
I don't think many people abide by that law.
Yeah, right? And more of a ask for forgiveness, not permission type thing? Yeah.
If she adds, you gotta get a. Who's gonna know any rental? I'm sure you need a rental. So they walk through, you got at least a TISH report you'll have to do. And if it's a city inspector, they'll know if you did work.
You gotta have a rental license, which maybe is the same thing.
St. Paul's kind of a nightmare until rent to
They
do.
both are. Why do we live here?
Just, but I'm talking proper.
No snakes.
Outside of Texas, what cities aren't?
I you know, you guys know Sarah Benson?
A lot.
She owns about 25, 30 properties throughout the Twin Cities.
Okay.
I called her because I have a investor looking at a duplex. I said, how many do you own in St. Paul? And she goes, well, I'm probably trying to get out of there because the city council is not renter friendly or owner friendly. So,
Yeah.
so keep that in mind.
Yes, laws that actually hurt the renters when they think they're helping them.
They do.
Rent control right now hurts these renters more than anything.
They're adjusting.
Yeah, I heard
The last thing I heard is they're adjusting it to new construction will not be included as well as I forget what else, but
Already adjusting it.
yeah, you know, well, there was kickbacks. And
When
investors, major
when
investors.
when your top builders start pulling out of
Yeah,
St. Paul because of that, because they can't.
big
get-
time investors were pulling off.
Yeah.
So looks good on paper, but
Right. So what else is a limiting belief we can address?
I think for me, and being a numbers guy, that trusting the pro forma, like I said, how do you get accurate information on short-term rentals? How do you estimate how many months out of the year it's
Yeah.
going to be rented? So that's what scared the heck out of me. And how do you get over that hump? And the only way you get over it is from historical data, right? But it may or may not exist. So that's.
I mean, my first one's gonna be a cabin that I can use. Do you know what I mean? So it'll be a little safer for me. I'd be ecstatic if I got half my monthly rent out of it.
Right.
Monthly payment out of it.
Right.
If I do that, I'll be happy as hell, but then I have something to compare it to if when I want to go into my next deal.
Yeah.
Kind of live, it's a little bit safer on that.
A good piece of advice that I got was run the numbers as a short-term rental and then run them also as a standard long-term.
Yeah.
And if the shit hits the fan, you can just rent it as a long-term rental. And I think so one of the reasons the MTR, the midterm rental thing is becoming a thing is because it's less turnover, easier to manage. Rates are a little higher than a long-term and they're a little less than a short-term. So that is starting to become really attractive in certain markets.
What do you consider midterm? How much?
A midterm to me would be 30 plus, probably 30 days to 3 months, something like that.
There's
Especially now with
plenty of rental
construction.
data out in any market. Not necessarily Airbnb rental, but there's plenty of data. So if you can find,
I
and
don't
then
even
if
know.
you can figure out how to extrapolate, okay, this is what year-long rents look like. What does that extract out to for Airbnb? That data, you can kind of make those correlations if you just look at it enough.
Most of my renters are in month to month. If I don't like them, I give them out. You can rent anything out like that. Your
Yeah.
leases anymore.
Great inflation hedge.
All right, cool. Well, we're a little over.
Well, thanks, guys.
Is that valuable? Hopefully, we can get some good stuff. What do you guys want to focus on the next one?
Finding
Maybe
deals.
we should find a property and run numbers on it.
We should do like some practice rounds or something.
Should we crunch numbers, do some research right on the screen and
It could be like,
generate? I think the best, most productive things are just ones that turn into conversation. We always say that, right?
Yes.
So I think that would be a great way to just get going.
Yeah.
Instead of talking about it, let's just do it. So somebody bring a property in. You have one in mind?
Maybe.
It'll probably be gone. by the next time we meet.
to know about it because it's from.
No, no.
that doesn't make sense.
Brandon, the first one we offered on, Brandon with my boots on the ground, he was helping me. We offered 60,000 over, no inspection, closing, basically 30 days. They could leave whatever they wanted there, or they could take whatever they wanted. We didn't care, and we didn't get it. And so I called I was like, we had to be close, and Brandon's like, yeah, I think you were close. 106,000 over asking.
Yeah, you weren't close.
And then that week they called Brandon's dad, who's a builder, to see if they could add on to it.
Oh, gosh, there's people with crazy money.
Yeah. So, all right, thanks, guys.
Yes, thank you.
I just.
Thanks, Melissa.